Your mics are on and you're close to your mics.
All right.
We've had real issues taking minutes on, because of not enough.
Volume.
Oh, yeah, the volume's really bad. Thank you.
All right. Well, we do, I'm going to call the meeting to order, and the notice, we do have a quorum, and we do need to approve some minutes from our August 27th, 2025 meeting.
Okay, I'll motion to approve the minutes from the August 27th,
All right.
2025 meeting.
And are there any comments about the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Approval of amendment to amended and restated Union Square parking declaration. Do we have any presentation in regards to this topic?
Yes, I'd be happy to. I'm Janelle Fair, excuse me, Director of Economic Development for the City of Westfield, and I have with us virtually Ryan Wilmering, outside counsel for the Redevelopment Commission. We have presented to you a slight change to the previously adopted declaration for the Union Square Garage. Just to give you a little background for the reason for this change, there was previously in the agreement an opportunity for Old Town, the developer, to provide monthly pass holders to its tenants at the Union Square development. This included their residents as well as their commercial tenants, and all of those passes were 24-hour-a-day passes at $40 a month. It came to our attention at the city that there were some employers who were struggling with the $40 a month pass rate for some of their employees, particularly businesses that have a lot of part-time workers, after school help, for example, that might only work a couple hours a day, maybe a couple days a week at minimum or near minimum wage. And they were looking for some solutions that would make this more affordable for their business and their employees. So through collaboration with Old Town, we agreed to pursue an opportunity to provide a second type of pass. This doesn't increase the number of passes that Old Town can issue. It just allows for another type at a reduced fee of $10 a month, and this would be offered only to employees in the building, and it would not allow them to park overnight. So this would prevent issues with people having a second car or a family vehicle that they just store continuously in the garage as just free parking, because we don't want people abusing the system and using passes if they don't need them. But it does create an opportunity where it's more affordable for those employees who need that opportunity. So again, still the same number of passes available to Old Town, just two different pass types. Ryan is on the line if you guys have any questions about the changes themselves. Ryan, if you want to point us to the section that changed, I can bring that up here on the screen.
Well, everything that you see there so section 1 are new definitions that we had to insert for this concept, or just a couple of them. Mm-hmm. Section 2 are the restated definitions, where these are concepts we already had in the original, but we had to adjust those to take account of the fact of these new pass holders or these new passes. And then I think section 3 there is where you get into the discussion that allows for the designation of these passes, and how those get, and how the payments, the fees are collected by the owner and then remitted to the city. I think there's nothing substantive there other than really using the definitions that we added. So it's not, those sections didn't change in any substantive manner. Just wanted to make sure we were capturing all the concepts.
Thank you, Ryan.
Is that the extent of your presentation?
That is all I have for you today. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you.
I got a few.
Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, so there's 300 spaces available, right?
Could you move the mic closer?
Sorry, there we go. How's that, better?
Yeah.
All right. We have 300 spaces available in the garage, correct? As I'm reading this document, it says in here that the building wrap owner can rent, can control up to 300 spaces in the garage. Is that correct?
That is not correct. They can issue that number of passes, but they do not control the spaces. So they are not reserved parking spaces. They are passes that allow people to park in unreserved spaces within the garage. So this allows people who are parking during the day to park in the same parking space that a resident would park overnight. So there is a peak during the day for office workers, retail workers. There's a peak overnight for residents that are sleeping there. And so you have these peaks that don't match up exactly, so that by not reserving the parking spaces, we can better utilize the entire garage 24 hours a day.
Okay, so along that line, how many spaces will we be seeing for overnight passes?
We do not know, and we are not telling the developer that they have to split these in a certain split. It is up to them to manage this over time, because they may have periods of time where they need additional overnight passes, or that they may need additional daytime passes, and they will be allowed to flex that as they need. We didn't see that it was necessary for us as a city to control how they administer those passes to
Well,
their
within the
tenants.
document, it says that the overnight pass holders have unfettered access 24 hours a day
Correct.
to the spaces that they lease. It also says that those who have the retail passes have unfettered access during those hours of retail time, which, as this is explained in here, is from 5 a.m. until 11:59 p.m. How are we going to manage that? Because if they have unfettered access, it essentially, to me, seems like it's saying nobody else has access to those during that time, because those spaces are leased by these people who either live in the community housing of the wrap building, or they are retail residents of that building or retail workers of that building. If they have that unfettered access to that, that seems to me to say that we're closing that garage down. We can't lease those to anybody else on the offhand chance, or have anybody else come in and use those, because those are currently reserved for those tenants. Have I got that wrong? Explain to me how that works.
Sure. I want to clarify again, none of the parking spaces are reserved parking spaces. These are first come, first served spaces. The passes themselves allow the people who have the passes available to park without paying a daily rate. So Denison Parking is a parking manager. There's a separate management agreement that has been executed between the city and Denison. Denison manages the garage and ensures that people who are parking there have paid either a daily rate or they have a monthly pass if they're parked in the garage. So there's no priority parking for either daily rate or monthly passes. They're open, unreserved parking, open to the public, open to the tenants, 24 hours a day. The retail tenants can park there, or the employee passes allow them to park there except for overnight. If there was someone who wanted to park there overnight that had an employee pass, if it is available, they would be allowed to pay for a single-use pass through Denison.
So who is controlling the leasing of these parking spaces in the garage?
I want to clarify again, there is no leasing of parking spaces. There is only the administration of the passes, which is the payment for the right to park in the garage, not in a specific space.
So if they come into the parking garage and those spaces happen to be filled because it's a first come, first serve, and they live there, but there's no parking spaces. How's that going to be handled? How do we see that?
So there is additional parking within the downtown. We have street parking available. We also have free parking available in a temporary lot that has been built by Public Works on ground that's being leased by the Community Development Corporation at Park and Poplar. That is free, free all the time. We have nearby street parking that is free within a couple of blocks of the area. And in addition, Old Town has an agreement to extend their Union Square development. It has a phase 2. There will be additional parking provided in that phase 2 project.
Yeah.
And if they're encountering issues with their residents having access to parking, they need to be accommodating that in their second phase to make sure that they are providing adequate access. Additionally, as we've moved into new development agreements for the downtown, we have oversized the parking garages in the Grand, which is located at State Road 32 between Mill and Poplar, so just one block west. And we are also oversizing the parking at Park and Poplar, both of those by approximately a full floor of parking. So this will help provide more flexibility in the downtown.
Yeah, I agree. I think the parking plan going forward, it looks really, really good. I think we got a pretty nice plan on how we're going to be able to do that. I'm just concerned about this particular garage.
I understand.
Because what concerns me here is that in this agreement, it says each overnight wrap building pass holder shall have the right to park one car in one vehicle in the garage overnight and without regard to time limits or additional charges for having a vehicle parked in the garage, and so on and so forth. So that doesn't mean that he goes down and parks on a different parking lot. That they're expecting a parking spot there in the garage. If I were living there, that's what I would expect. Right. Would you?
I would.
I understand.
I'll comment on that because unfortunately I have an experience with this virtually exactly the same set of circumstances at the Olivia in the city of Carmel. It's the same set of circumstances. What you'll find, Ron, is that people that live there will leave around 7:30-ish, 8 o'clock, and then people that work in the area will start arriving. And so when I would return with my family, we had 3 cars, but none of us ever had a problem finding a spot. By 5, 4, well, really starting about 3, 4 o'clock, people started leaving, and there were always spots in that garage for us because there were those transition periods where employees and employers and residents were not really there at all the same time. Mm-hmm. So it works out. Oddly enough, it always seems to work out. There's enough. Yeah, I'm sure there may be studies, but I can tell you on a firsthand anecdotal basis, evidence
And this
that it works.
amendment's really just adding the flexibility to have a $10 rate. It's not really changing the previous amendments.
No.
The problem that was before is still the problem now, is how I view it. I don't think this is contributing more to the problem.
We tend to, with our parking regulations and so forth, to overpark, meaning we have too many spaces in reality that are not being fully utilized. And this is really a good preventive way of kind of not letting that happen, because you really have 2 different kind of user types. Some that are leaving in the morning and then some that are arriving. So it works itself out, oddly enough. And
I would agree that on normal days that you probably, on normal business days, you probably see that, but during special events that would be going on in the plaza or there in the park, you're probably going to see an overpark situation occur where people who have paid for those the right to park in there overnight or even during business hours are going to wind up with some kind of issue with finding a place to park.
Ron, may I
that comes down to just for a second, that comes down to the relationship between the person that's leasing the apartment and the person is the leasee, and how they pitch what they're going to get when they rent an apartment from that group. So, like I said, we never experience a problem, but anything's possible. But if you're in a situation like this, you're living there because you want to be in that area and around those kinds of events and so forth. We were just living there because we were building a place or having some work done. So we needed an alternative location, so.
So-
That's all I can offer on that concept.
If I could add just some actual data from this month, I did just receive a draft version of an invoice from Denison Parking, and currently, we only have 54 passes that have been issued by Old Town. We will see over time as they lease up more of their apartments, where we start to hit closer to 300. That's where we start really tracking data to find out how the garage is being used. And then we can coordinate with Old Town to determine whether it makes sense to make any adjustments to the way they are opting into this declaration. So they have two options. One is the open parking, unreserved parking spaces. The other is that they have 30% of the parking spaces that they can reserve for their residents. They would prefer not to reserve spaces for their residents because from their experience in other developments, they find that people who have reserved spaces park in the unreserved spaces, so then they have two spaces available, and you run into issues faster. So they believe strongly that this is the best solution to move forward, and we are using this option at their request. And again, we think that we're going to be able to make any modifications to their phase 2 based on the data that we have here from phase 1. If we could go back in time and we had sized the garage after I had started working here in Westfield, we may have looked at the data. I wasn't here when the garage construction plans were done. I don't know what studies were completed. I would have probably recommended that we increase the number of parking spaces in the facility, but we have the hand that was dealt to us.
I'm looking for something that I read in the document here that talks about the building wrap owner notifying the building owner of any kind of changes of designation to parking spaces. It's in this document. I'm trying to find it now, but it clearly leads you to believe that within this document, it says that they can and will reserve parking spaces with this lease rental agreement that locks it down for a 24-hour period. Can you help me understand how we're going to react to that, or how that is supposed to work?
It's in the second paragraph of section 3, but it is not about reserving spaces. It's the list of pass holders. So initially, if Old Town elects to, issue these passes as in lieu of reserved spaces, there's a list. Say it's 300 just for discussion purposes. Tenants are going to come and go as those tenant lists change, and it wants to update who has those passes, who the pass holders are. Old Town will let the city know who it is so that Denison can update its list and knows who's supposed to be there and who not. That's all that is saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Janelle, you started with the intent is for the couple-hour, maybe high school workers.
It is.
Was there any discussion, and is their intent just, how do they split from a normal manager versus, are they going to?
This will be available for any employees.
Okay.
We're not trying to designate whether you fit into an exempt or non-exempt category or anything like that. We've just made this available for employee parking at a reduced rate, but it does not allow overnight parking, which should free up more parking overnight for the residents.
Ron, any more questions, comments?
I think,
Good.
help me understand one more thing. This I'm slow today. I'm sorry. I've been up a long time. Walk me through this of parking availability and the kind of statistics that you're aware of that where this type of agreement allows for maximum utilization, or I shouldn't say maximum, I should say optimum utilization of a garage space such as this under this type of agreement. Have you had experience with that, and how does that actually work out?
I'm going to attempt to answer your question. I don't know that I can exactly answer it because the situations that I've dealt with in the past actually didn't have any parking passes associated. It was just free parking, which you would, well, which actually what happens is you have more people who are abusing the system and using the parking garage for long-term parking for extra vehicles or abandoned vehicles. And so there isn't turnover. You have people who don't live there or don't work there that are taking up spaces. But what I've seen in my experience, and I have worked, my previous job, I actually worked in an office that was in the parking garage. So I drove into the parking garage and walked through the parking garage to get in and out of my office every day. And what I saw was that the first couple floors of the parking garage, and it was about the same size, just spaced, sized in a different formation. The first couple floors of the parking garage fill up really quickly, and the upper floors of the parking garage were mostly empty. And then as you started the workday, you would see more of the garage fill, and then towards lunchtime, you would see it empty out a bit, and then you would see it fill up again towards the end of the day, and all the reserved resident parking spaces, and that was 25%, I believe, they were largely empty all day long. So no one that was working there could park in any of the reserved parking spaces, but nobody who lived there was parking there either. They were just unused all day long.
I just want to avoid any kind of arguments over how this garage is being leased with people not having being so short on parking down there during events. I get people asking me all the time, when's that garage going to be open to the public? And this, I said, well, it's scheduled for July, and I finally got it open in August, which I think is fine. I think it's great, but I just want to make sure that we're not giving away the keys to the city here that's going to cause some kind of backlash to the city or to us. My main concern, though, is the financial situation that we have with the garage, and that is that we're going to be paying for that with TIF and lit money, and based on the projections that I've seen, how's that going to work out? I mean, do we have enough in the TIF in that district to be able to pay for the garage at this point, or have the projections changed since they were originally published in 22?
I don't think this is really directly related to the parking declaration, but I'm happy to answer your question.
Okay.
On the financing of the garage, the TIF in that TIF area has not been sufficient to pay for all of the debt service on the parking garage.
Okay.
We are utilizing other sources of revenue to pay for the gap.
Okay. John, how much are our payments? Do you happen to have a general idea?
Rachel Baker from the redevelopment department, our redevelopment manager, handles all of the TIF financing, and we weren't expecting to be discussing the financing agreements of the garage at all related to the parking declaration. So unfortunately, I haven't invited her to the meeting to answer those questions.
Well, the public backlash from not finding a parking spot would be just horrible to have to face, but I think you've got a good solution here. If we can utilize those spaces, and we have statistics that says we can utilize those spaces, it just leaves the financial end of it on how it's getting paid for. Originally, we were, as I recall, and this is anecdotal because I don't have anything to show for it, the original conversation about the garage was that they were going to be charging in the neighborhood of $80 to $100 per parking space for utilization from those who live there, the residents. We never talked about the people who were going to own businesses, and then we reduced it significantly and agreed to a $40 with the recognition that we were going to be using more revenue from TIF and lit, or local income tax, to be able to cover the debt. Has anybody done any analysis on that says that we're still going to be safe based on what we see here from a financial standpoint?
The parking passes are not connected to the debt service in any way.
I know.
So the analysis of how the parking passes relate to the debt service are completely separate calculations. We're using the parking pass revenue to assist with planning for long-term capital improvements that will be required in this garage over its lifetime to ensure that as we need to make major repairs, we have we have cash on hand to make those things possible. The debt service, as I said, should be paid for through the TIF. It is not entirely covered through the TIF, and we are working with Bondry, our municipal advisor, to develop the cash flow year after year for the source of money that will repay that debt. For next year, it's going to be coming from a separate allocation area. I believe it was the Spring Mill, what's the name of it? Spring Mill, yes, you're correct. The Spring Mill Station TIF is going to be covering the gap that we have in debt service in 2026. So this is part of the spending plan that has already been adopted by the RDC, and we are not creating any issues with any other debt related to Spring Mill Station.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Eases my mind a bit.
Great.
I know they've got the money out there, so, yeah. That's it.
Any other comments?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the,
Go ahead.
sorry.
Yep.
Motion to approve the amendment to the amended and restated Union Square parking declaration.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other additional items of business?
I have none.
Any board members have any items, other items of business?
I do not.
All right, very good. I will move to adjourn the meeting. All
When's
those
our
in
next
favor?
When is our next meeting?
I don't know.
Calendar for January?
Yeah, we adopted a calendar, but we are moving forward on an as-needed basis per the Danielle.
Okay.
All right, I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. As always, it's a pleasure. Have a great holiday season.